Hello and a very warm sunny welcome back to Yarslow. I know it's winter outside, it's been wet and windy and horrid, but the sun always shines at Yarslow, so welcome to this November update. Got a few bits and pieces to show you that have been going on this time. I've also got plenty of running trains and one or two other comments as well on things that have happened recently on the channel. And some of the video of running trains will be taken from slightly different angles, like this class 4 on the fitted running through the up main in the storage sidings, and then out past Middle Junction on one of the few sunny days that we've had recently. Now, if you've been with me for a little while, you will recognise this photo taken back in September 2 years ago nearly, when the shed was finished and I was standing in it and it was completely empty. Well, this next shot of the class 4 running around the layout puts progress into some kind of context. This shot is taken from roughly the same place and shows the extent of the main line around the outside of the layout, with a branch in front of you here and Trinity Square the other side of that central scenic divide. And here she is running off the main line and coming into storage track up 8. Now, I have recently taken delivery of a Daypole Class 22 in green with half yellow ends, and here she is running on a train which is made up of Daypole unpainted wagons and various kit wagons that I've built. I put them all in one train so I know where they all are, and I can take that painting and lettering and weathering as a project. And as she runs through the platforms, you'll see another project which I've completed recently, and that is the scenic section behind the signal box from the junction of the branch right through to the end of the platforms. And at the same time I did this bit behind the up platform and gave it a green flock base. And in accordance with my current planning, I've just gone for a base coat here, and once the whole of Yarslow is done, I'll go back and put clump foliage and then bushes and trees and fences and all the other stuff over the top. The J26 on an unfitted here, showing us the effect of this new scenery. At this end of the layout, bushes and trees in the foreground will help disguise the hole in the sky where the train exits the scene. So another one of those context shots. You can see the train leaves the scenic section, runs across Middle Junction. The lines in the foreground here are the link between the Trinity Square storage and the Trinity Square approach tracks. And this time it's the down main line that we are watching. This train is skirting around all of the down storage sidings and takes the extreme left hand end road, which is the down main line. The tracks to the left of the train are the Trinity Square storage sidings. I've been asked by a couple of people to explain how the cartridge system works, so here's a view of an engineer's train reversing off the cartridge and onto the Trinity Square storage line. This switch, which I've mentioned before, gives access out onto the down main. This chart shows that to run from the down main back to Trinity Square storage, I need to pull lever 3 at middle junction. And so the J39 with her train comes across middle junctions, crossings, and into the Trinity Square line. Now, I've not been happy with the groundworks at Yarslow, and so I've stripped everything off and I've added more filler to try and get the ground looking more even, and I've gone right through up past the exchange sidings as well. I've been doing a fair bit of work on the colour of the ground around Yarslow, working over a grey base with some weathering powders, and I'm really pleased with the way this has come out. In the foreground here, I've sprayed a little bit of it with some matte varnish to try to protect the powdered surface, but I'm not convinced that it looks good at all. Now, to cover up the point levers at Yarslow, I've built this stable block, 3-horse stable block with a tack room at the far end, and on the left there is a small barn which is intended to be a hay room. Obviously it needs a roof, but I quite like the look of that. Now, in the same part of the layout, I've been expanding the number of groups available to the stopping freight on the main line. I'm now up to about 14 groups of wagons, and if you look at the video, the old video on stopping freights at Yarslow, it'll explain how my stopping freights work. Essentially, wagons are grouped together like this pair at Blowick Lane and these at Butterbump. This is the whole train stopped in the loop siding at Yarslow, but actually if we break it down, you can see it's a number of groups of wagons. Similarly, this is the yard at Yarslow, but if it was shunted into its wagon groups, this is what it would look like. The biggest development at Yarslow and the hardest work has been the installation of point rodding in front of the Yarslow South signal box. There's still much to do here, tidying up and sorting out, but all the bare bones are in and I'm really pleased with the way it looks. There's still much to do. I've got a junction to fit there, but I like the way that the rods run down to that crossover right at the up end of the line. No rodding, of course, to that facing point crossover, because technically that doesn't exist. But there is a rod that comes from the signal box straight out to unlock the ground frame that works the permanent way yard in the foreground here. This is a Bachmann Sincraft product, I think, and a very nice one too. I shall paint the levers the right colours before everything is finished. And to put this into context, of course, this whole section seen here from standing in the doorway is the board that crosses the door as you come into the shed. And as I still muck around with the bases of buildings, you can see that I've started to add some filler in this area now and filled in that gap so that I can make this whole ground look better than it did. And I shall probably add some more cork sheeting to bring the ground up to rail level, bearing in mind that this was an old wagon works and is now the permanent way yard. Now, I've talked a lot about research, and I'm going to use this photo just as an illustration of that. It's a picture credited to J. Cupit. It appears in an Ian Allen publication called The Eastern Before Beaching by John Brodrib. And these sort of books are much to be sought out and looked at. Certainly, if you know, for whatever region you model. Now, the photo itself shows an A3 6085 Manor. It's at the head of a Doncaster to Grantham local. That's 4 coaches. That's the first thing we're gleaning from this picture. But look at the ballast. The ballast on the main line, lovely and clean. The ballast on the loop line here, to a lesser degree. And on the far right here, you can see the ballast on this, whatever that is, whether it's some kind of blind siding or just an ordinary loading siding, is pretty poor. We've got lattice upper quadrant signals in this part of the world, and you can glean the fact that if you want to use an A3 for your stopping train, then that's absolutely fine. So there's loads of things in a photo like this that you can glean, including, as you can see, the track points at the end of the sidings. Clearly the line in the foreground leads to the main line. You've got point rodding on the far left, the type of fencing far left. Lots of stuff to glean from a simple photo. Now here's something you don't get every day. This is a film of me actually doing something on the layout, in this case ballasting, having done my research, and now providing a very clean shoulder of ballast along the main line. Note that the principal tools here, apart from my ballasting spoon, are fingers. It's another one of those jobs that you don't need to rush. Take your time. If you're not happy with it, start again, because this is the sort of job you really only want to do once. And I've ended up with this, and I am more than happy with that as a bit of mainline ballasting. And whilst various paint, glue and filler has been drying, I've cut the tops for the platforms at Trinity Square, and I'm really pleased with the way these have come out. So while the horsebox train runs through Yarslow, let me take a few seconds just to say a huge thank you to the thousands of people who watched and the dozens of people who commented on the recent bite-sized video on passenger train formations. I've never seen so much activity following one of my videos, and I'm really thankful for all those people who have made extra comments and clarified some of the points that were made. Now, my cartridge system also allows trains to run around the up line, a bit more complicated, but let me show you how that works using this milk train. Now, having passed through the platforms at Yarslow, the milk train uses that non-existent facing crossover to switch back onto the down line and run wrong road back into the storage sidings and eventually onto the Trinity Square storage line, reversing back onto the cartridge. So that's where we are as we come to the end of November. Lots of little jobs going on, lots of things that I've been finishing up on. I'm going to continue working on the permanent way section and get that groundwork finished and get some greenery base colour on there. It's less than a month now until the boys from the Railway Club come for their mince pie and mulled wine, and I'm hoping to get a few other little jobs done, including a bit of progress at Trinity Square, which has been much neglected, so I'm looking forward to doing that. Thanks for sticking with me. Please do give us a subscribe and hit that notifications bell. Give us a like. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon.